What's up, Offworlders? And welcome to another marvellous episode, that's my adjective for today, of Offworld Off Topic, with me, Sam Paler, and Mark Foxpowell.
Hello.
Offworld Off Topic is Offworld Empire's weekly show.
Yes.
So, Mark, I haven't seen you since being away for Christmas.
Yeah.
We managed to have got a few things recorded over that period of time.
Yeah, we did. Got a few things out.
Yeah. But the most significant thing that happened, aside from Christmas and all the other nonsense...
Basically the coolest thing that in living memory sort of happened, for me at least, I think. Yeah. SpaceX landed the first stage of their Falcon 9 rocket on land at Cape Canaveral. Yeah. Which was massive and awesome.
And so that's what we're going to mostly talk about today. But there wasn't... But before we get into that, there was obviously another big event that happened over Christmas whilst we were away.
Yeah, sure.
Which we haven't talked about. Which was
Christmas itself, you mean?
No.
Okay.
Star Wars.
Fuck. Star Wars.
We talked about it in, I think, the previous episode.
Yeah. Fair enough. Oh, yeah, we did. Yeah.
And we haven't really talked about what we thought of it. Although we did briefly message each other saying... So I sort of know roughly what you think.
Yeah, we've got a bit of a... Yeah.
We're not going to do like a big review or anything.
No,
and there's no spoilers or anything.
Yeah, we're absolutely going to... We're not going to spoil anything.
No.
But...
I just want to talk to you briefly about it.
Yeah, sure.
So what was it? A thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs middle?
Thumbs middle, I think, for me.
What, a fit?
Thumbs middle.
Are we talking out of 10?
I think out of 10, I'd give it a solid, 7.
That's gone down since you last spoke to me, since that messaging.
Really?
I thought...
I've thought about it a lot since that messaging.
Yeah, okay. 7's quite low.
7's quite low. I know. I need to see it again. This is why I'm saying to you, I need to see it again because when I saw it, I was a bit of a mess. I wasn't expecting
an emotional.
I actually honestly don't reckon I've been that excited for a film in the cinema since
Interstellar.
No, I reckon I was when I actually sat down to watch it. I was more excited.
Than we were at Interstellar.
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. I do actually believe that.
I wasn't anywhere near.
When the long time ago Galaxy Far Far Away shit came on the screen, I was like. My heart was going, I was full on, like a child. It was, I don't even know what, I was not expecting that kind of level of, anyway. So through most of the film, I was a bit like, right, okay, yeah, that's happened, now what's happening, right, so
it's a bit of a blur.
All of my opinions of it have been formed on, thinking back through stuff afterwards. So, this is why I need to see it again.
Yeah.
I need to make sure that, what my opinion of it is actually accurate. You know what
I mean? I think when I came out, and I probably still think it's around an 8 out of 10, or maybe sort of 7.58. Again, it's gone slightly down.
I could see that.
There's not much difference.
I said 7, but I mean maybe more of an 8. 7.
I thought it was a good fun blockbuster.
Yeah,
well put together.
Definitely very well executed.
I'm not sure they could have done that much different because they had to play it safe in a way because the prequels are such a pile of shit. They kind of just went for a sort of unsurprising nostalgia film.
Yes, they did. That's actually not my biggest.
No, my biggest criticism of it.
Let's be really careful about this.
Yeah, no spoilers. I didn't have an emotional reaction to almost any of the film.
I did. Yeah, okay.
Sure. Because it's quite funny and quite kind of lighthearted and quite sort of irreverent. I just didn't. There weren't any bits of it that really got under my skin that kind of made me sort of tear up a bit or anything like that. I was just kind of like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
There was no. I just had no emotional weight to it for me. But I thought it was good fun.
I wouldn't say, for me personally, I wouldn't say no emotional weight, and I certainly think the first third of it.
The first third's so much better than the rest of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The first third was where all of the for me all the really good stuff resided, and that's where felt like Star Wars and all that stuff. Yeah. And I think there were really good stuff littered throughout the rest of the film. I just think that the direction it went in, without giving anything away at all, was potentially a bit more Marvel-esque than I was hoping for. I mean, in a way that kind of makes sense because those kinds of films do really well, and they're these kind of modernizing,
and Disney owns it as well.
And Disney owns it. Yeah. So in a way that kind of makes sense, and obviously the vast majority of people have a much higher opinion of it than we do here.
I think so. Yeah.
So I'm pretty jealous of these people actually.
Yeah, I think the average review was closer to most people seem to be more kind of towards the 9s.
But tons of massive Star Wars fans. I consider myself a massive Star Wars fan. Yeah. Tons of massive Star Wars fans have come away from it being like, this is perfect, this is exactly what we wanted. Yeah. All these things, ticked all the boxes. Yeah. I don't think it ticked all the boxes.
No.
I think it was too safe.
No, yeah, it was too safe, but I think it just didn't have any emotional resonance with me, and I think that they could have played it safe and still had that. There's a few problems with it, but I'm still quite happy.
Yeah.
I still think I stick to my opinion that the first Star Trek reboot is a better film.
Okay, I didn't enjoy it as much as this.
No,
I quite liked that film. But it's not like
you didn't like it as much as I did.
No, I don't think so.
And I don't like Star Trek.
I've seen it a few times. Seen it like 3 or 4 times, I think, in total.
Yeah.
And I just find it a bit sort of a bit cold and a bit like.
Oh, see, I was more. I was really surprised by that Star Trek film.
Yeah.
I just wasn't expecting it. Maybe that's why though. I had no expectations.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
probably
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
I felt like that was a slightly tighter film though. I thought it was just slightly better put together.
Yeah, maybe.
I felt people suited their roles really well and kind of they were just.
Oh, no, that's one of the things about Star Wars that I thought was really, really good. I thought
it was good as
the
well.
Cast were really well. Yeah. Most of the cast were really good.
Most of the cast
were really, really good. Don't want to say much more about that.
Well, yeah, it's okay. I thought some people didn't really. Carrie Fisher, I didn't think was very good.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was
thinking. She was shit.
Yeah. I think she was pointless almost. Like, in fact, like that whole part of it was just like.
Yeah. I thought the 2 new people were great.
I thought the 3 new people were great.
Yeah.
I know you weren't so on board with can we even say?
We can say Kylo Ren. Yeah, okay. I know we have to be careful, but
I just don't really know like what people know.
I thought that was good. I thought he was a good bad guy.
Yeah, I thought he was excellent. I thought he was one of the strongest parts of the film.
I came round to him actually after when I first left. I thought he was one of the problems with it being too irrelevant, like sort of funny and irrelevant. Yeah. But that I don't think he was the problem.
I actually think he's one of the strongest, and he was a bit even towards the end when to me like the big stuff that was all happening felt a bit like a bit marvelly.
Yeah,
he was the thing that managed to keep it
on the straight line.
More of a straight narrow than it could have possibly been. It's like to me, like his bits. But anyway,
I'm going to go and see it again at some point.
Yeah, for sure. And then I'll have like much more like pinned down opinion about it, and maybe I need to see Star Trek again as well, just to kind of like.
I've seen that a few times now, probably 3 times actually.
Yeah, I've seen it a few times.
It's good.
Not for a while.
Good old blockbuster, that one.
Yeah.
So this week, Mark.
This week
is CES.
It is
the big electronic show.
Yeah.
Which I'm pretty excited about because there's loads of VR stuff there.
Tons of VR stuff.
They've already done some electric car announcements. All kinds of bits and bobs. NVIDIA have come up with some fancy new chip to put in electric cars.
It's where we get to get excited about like the next sort of year or so of tech.
Yeah, and potentially future kind of trends that we might see.
Yeah.
So I think what we'll do is next week we'll do an episode on like kind of the bits that we picked out of CES that we think are good.
Yeah.
And the bits that we can kind of comment on what applications they might have in the future, kind of the things that stand out to us as being important developments.
And hopefully there'll be like devices. The obvious stuff, obviously, but there might be like the odd little tidbit of just like random stuff that we just find and think is like maybe going to be big or whatever.
Yeah.
Not that we have any authority to make that call at all, but it's just whatever. I'm just talking about it 'cause it's fun. That reminds me. The other night, so like on the 2nd of January, I was out with some friends back down south where I live, and
so you still hungover?
I wasn't hungover
on the 2nd.
It's on the 2nd. On the 2nd. So you recovered from New Year's Eve.
Yeah, you just had that one night.
You wake up on the New Year's on the 2nd, thinking, it's all behind me, and then like that night you have another massive night. This has always been a bit of a tradition with friends at home. To do that. Anyways, my friend's birthday. But anyway, all of that aside, that's not important. I ended up getting into a conversation with a friend about autonomous vehicles, self-driving cars, and I ended up betting him 50 quid, and we shook on it with witnesses.
50 quid's quite a lot.
50 quid's quite a lot, but the bet expires in 15 years, so I'm hoping that in 15 years, 50 quid's just like fucking like pocket change. I don't really care.
Yeah. Of course,
might not be.
You'll be scraping together all the last pennies.
While he
your food money for that week will be down the drain.
Yeah, and he pursues me like. To get 50 quid, squeeze it out of me. Anyway,
apologies for my cough, by the way.
That's all right. You're not apologising to me, are you?
No.
Yeah.
I don't care about you.
Yeah.
Go on.
Anyway, the 50 quid bet was basically that in 15 years' time, so 15 years from now, 2031,
right,
it will be illegal.
Really?
For humans to drive cars in cities.
2031.
15 years from
I
now.
agree. I think your mate's going to win that bet.
I was drunk.
I
was going in hard.
That may happen. I don't think that's too
so
soon.
I mean, I woke up the next morning. I was like, that was fucking stupid. Because I think by 2031 we'll possibly have a lot of self-driving cars. And there may even be laws being made about them. But I think that was a bit of a stretch.
Because that's like a big. People would see that as a big change in their sort of rights to sort of say, you're not allowed to drive cars.
Of course
at all.
It's a fundamental change in the way that we get around. Yeah, absolutely, and that's what I was going for.
But it will
the
happen,
cities
probably.
will look very different in my sort of vision of 15 years from now. But my drunken vision, my drunken. If I was revising it now, I probably might have said 30 years, doubled that up.
Yeah. 2045.
Because 15 years is not much.
That is too soon.
It's enough time for him to forget about it.
There'll be autonomous cars by then.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think there'll be autonomous cars within the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
totally
definitely.
Self-driving.
And I think by 2031 there'll probably be a lot of them, and like the world will be beginning to be shifting in that direction. Probably not quite what I was.
Not illegal in most.
That was the thing. Why did I? I mean, he wouldn't have taken. If I just said there will be autonomous cars in 15 years, he would have been like, yeah, sure.
Well, that's a bit like the SpaceX bet that.
But he basically was saying that like they weren't going to be a big deal. They weren't going to change like transport. And I was like, no, they're going to fucking like change the world, blah, blah, blah. And so I went in hard with this bet, and I was pissed.
Then whatever. They're going to. Oh, he doesn't think they're going to change the world.
Well, he was like, yeah, they'll probably like slowly do stuff like in our lifetimes. He wasn't really like.
He was sort of playing it down.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think he made a good bet though. I think he was probably a bit less drunk than you, and
I think he probably
it was a bit like my SpaceX bet where I won £10. Because I bet that they were going to land that rocket this year, and I was. When was that? Was that like
back
February?
in I think it was May actually.
Okay, May.
But anyway.
And it looked like for all the world that they were going to do it. And then they blew one of the rockets up.
Yeah.
And I got through it with the skin of my teeth.
Yeah, like with a week to go, basically.
So close.
And fucking hell did they pull it off.
Got that 10 quid.
Yes, he did. And I mean,
that's the most important part.
And didn't the guy like message you saying like, worth it? It's worth it.
Yeah, he said he was glad.
I'd pay fucking 10 quid to see that happen again. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no, it was very, very cool. I mean, I suppose we haven't really talked about kind of like what it felt like watching it.
It was insane.
I know it was insane. I mean, we obviously like tried to put that video together remotely, but. Man alive!
Man,
I could not believe it because so
the whole carry on.
The way it kind of happened because it was that whole thing as I wasn't sure if they were even going to show the landing because previous SpaceX launch landings had been maybe 30 minutes an hour later. They then released a video of this thing like trying to land on a barge and not managing it.
And usually you don't even get like any kind of update until about then. Like
so you don't know.
You're just hearing mission control talking about the actual like payload delivery into orbit, and half an hour later there's a tweet goes up saying, "Oh, landing attempt failed" or something. Yeah, and that's it. Whereas this, they fucking went to town with their coverage. Yeah,
and the coverage was really great. Yeah. But I just wasn't expecting. So I was just there, kind of like, are they going to show it? Oh my god, they're showing it. Oh my god, it's landing. It's landing. Is it landed? Is it steady? And then kind of, it was steady.
But my stream froze literally maybe 30 seconds before the landing. And you know that little like they have that again part of their really great cover. Like it's so good. They really show like have you watched NASA streams and stuff? They're shit now.
Yeah, they are.
And like the Soyuz launches, they're shit. This is how to do live launch streams.
Yeah, it was very good.
The little like graphic at the bottom, it's like runs along the bottom of the screen and shows all the major events like before, like fueling and all that stuff before liftoff, and then the launch and then the max Q and all these different bits. And I was like watching that. It's approaching the experimental landing bit. And like suddenly it all went down, and I was opening all these other tabs and like trying the YouTube stream and trying the one linked from Spaceflight Now and all this other stuff. And I knew by that point that more than 30 seconds had gone by, and I was like, that's it. I've missed whatever's happened. I've missed it. And then the video.
So when it came back
again,
up, was it literally just?
It was that shot. It was like so. I watched it again, obviously multiple times. Yeah. But like, it comes down like and it's all. It's so bright you can't really see what's going on, and then
close-ups.
There's a close-up, and you see it stood there.
That was the bit you turned. That was
the bit that it came back
to.
So
lucky.
It was insane, and I still didn't really quite believe what was going on. Yeah. So like, it cut immediately from that to like the mission control going absolutely ape shit, like jumping up and down, screaming, like cheering, hugging each other, and I was just like. I mean, I just
Yeah,
lost my
it was-
mind.
Yeah, I like the way they did like a little tour around some of the SpaceX stuff with
Yeah,
that guy
yeah, that
from
was-
Wait But Why.
Yeah, he was
did
on
well.
there. He
I
did
thought he
well.
did
He did well. Yeah, it was really funny because
He looked kind of like his face was. It was so funny when he was sort of walking around. Not when he was walking around, but when he was kind of like stood there with the other two, and he's kind of like like a little child, just loving it. But I would be like that. So
Yeah.
Fair play.
I mean, apparently he was just asked if he could be there to like say stuff, and that's it. Like he's like, why am I here? I'm not part of SpaceX. Like, who am I? Like, he put up like a little post before the thing, and he was saying basically like apparently I'm just meant to turn up and say things out of my face, and people were going to listen. Like, who am I? What? That was quite funny, and he looked pretty awkward stood there. But fair play, he did a good job.
I thought it was great.
The whole thing was
great.
really,
it was kind of
really
like a
good.
celebration of this new kind of space race in a way.
Yeah.
Although one person who wasn't celebrating particularly, seemingly, although he you could take it on the outside as being a celebration, was Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
But his tweet was a little bit odd to me.
Yeah, I find it strange. I did find it strange.
So
what exactly did he say?
I wrote the tweet down.
This is just after the landing.
He said, "Congrats SpaceX on landing Falcon's suborbital booster."
Mm-hmm.
Obviously putting that in. Welcome to the club.
Welcome to the club.
So welcome to the club, and the fact that he uses the word suborbital,
Cheeky.
because what he's obviously there's people have written about this, and it's saying it's kind of an underhanded. It's not really a compliment.
No, it's meant to be like we were there first, definitely.
Yeah, it's a swipe. I just think it was a bit unnecessary.
It was a bit unnecessary, and I mean nobody is suggesting that what Blue Origin have done and what SpaceX are doing is in any way really comparable. Like everybody knows what the reality of the situation. It's not like anyone's fooled by it.
No.
So it's a bit bizarre.
It was just kind of like what I know.
Not to put Blue Origin down, because what they did was cool. Like,
no, it's
seriously cool, and we'll probably talk about it a bit later.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Shit.
And I spend a lot of money on Amazon, so I feel like I've contributed.
Fair play. And I'm going to be right up in one of those things when when we can be paying customers.
Yeah, I don't want to slag him off because he might just say you can't come on my badass.
But it was
rocket.
odd. Like the suborbital bit was like a reference to that little like Twitter kind of beef that him and Elon had after the Blue Origin one.
Yeah.
Whereas Elon was like pointing out, it's suborbital and all this stuff, and he's like, oh, so is yours is suborbital, and it all got a bit like a bit weird.
It's good to have a competition, but in a way, it's kind of like it's just to us anyway. It's just so cool that this is all happening. That there's just this new space race on. Can't believe our luck, and they're already sort of like catfighting a bit. Maybe that's funny actually. Maybe I quite like it.
Yeah, I think there's a funny side to it for sure.
But he could have been a little bit more gentlemanly about it.
Yeah, I like how
Elon
didn't
cover
reply, so that's good. As he did to the previous stuff.
I don't think he really covered himself in glory there.
No.
It would have been just a proper thing to do, say congratulations SpaceX, just gritted your teeth and got on with it.
Yeah.
But then again, I mean, Elon didn't do that either. Like when Blue Origin landed, he said congratulations, but then just put out a load of stuff about like, oh yeah, but it's not the same or whatever. As if like
he did say that.
So maybe
just to point out, blah blah blah. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe he didn't need to do that. I'm not sure.
No.
But I know we all know the difference.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. Certainly, what SpaceX are doing is, they're actually putting proper payloads into orbit. They're with paying customers. They're going to be taking crew into orbit next year.
Into orbit as well.
Yeah,
that's the key word.
Yeah,
there.
into orbit. Like it's very different. It's a different. We talked about this in our previous video. But yeah. So,
if we think about, this is now a thing.
Yeah.
That rockets going into orbit can land.
Yep.
And
done.
And not only are they going to orbit, obviously ones that just pop up as well, the Blue Origin one.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like a thing now in the space industry.
Yeah.
And I was kind of thinking about how long has this like space race been going on, since the 60s or whatever. The rise of all these kind of new companies has achieved so much more than was ever possible in years and years of programs by the governments of the world.
Unbelievable, really.
And
although the sort of the late 50s to late 60s aside, because that was a bit of an exceptional time where shitloads of the US federal budget and shitloads of Russian money was spent on just doing that.
Yeah.
And they managed to get pretty far in 10 years.
Yeah.
But certainly since then, government agencies have just been peddling this sort of same stuff for decades.
Yeah, exactly. They just the space shuttle was something different. But it was a mess.
It wasn't the best suited vehicle for the job. Really, it was a fucking cool looking thing.
Oh, so
but,
cool.
Yeah. But it wasn't. It had its problems, and it was the same for a long time. It didn't advance much. Like once it was brought into circulation, like that was that.
And you think about the government space programs, government-led space programs that aren't like frontier research kind of Curiosity rover style things. Are dead.
I reckon, yeah.
Like the Russians are never going to keep up with these new developments. Not currently what they've got. I mean, to be honest, it's not only the government programs that are dead. I can't see ULA coming out of this well.
Oh yeah, like some of the old sort of dinosaur launch companies, like Boeing, Lockheed, like ULA, and
because they
even like some of the others, like Arianespace and people like that. Like
think that. They've got the Vulcan rocket planned, okay? That thing's not even got all it's not even like guaranteed to follow through with all its funding and everything. Yeah. It's not even like a guaranteed thing. And SpaceX have already landed the Falcon 9.
Yeah.
And are starting to, refuel it and try again or whatever.
Yeah, the reusable concept of this Vulcan rocket, which is ULA's like future
mental.
Rocket, is crazy. It's got all these like different components, like the engines come out and they like parachute down, the helicopter catches it in midair and all this crazy shit.
And the main rocket body itself gets destroyed, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The tank.
Yeah, so I don't see how it could ever be as cheap as a fully reusable first stage rocket. No. I mean, I know that so the economics behind reusable rockets are really complicated, and it depends on like how much it costs to refurbish them and like how long they're on the ground and all this shit and other stuff. Yeah. And like ULA obviously think that what SpaceX is doing is unnecessary, like an unnecessary complication to something that you could make it less complex and thereby
save money
on the long run, more economical. I don't know.
Yeah,
but like surely SpaceX is only going to get better and better at landing first stage, parts of their boosters. So like
just any part of their rocket.
Yeah, so like if you're not landing the whole rocket and reusing the whole rocket, then you're always going to be one step behind them.
Yeah, you'd think so. It just seems to me that they haven't got any plans now in the future that are going to be able to keep up with SpaceX. We definitely don't want SpaceX to be like a monopoly on it.
No,
because that's always bad.
Yeah, and I don't think they want that. I mean, they want money, obviously,
sure.
but their express goal isn't to be like the world dominating launch provider. They want to get to Mars.
Yeah,
that's what they want to do.
Yeah. So you can't help but fear for some parts of ULA because they've lost contracts to SpaceX. They're clearly falling behind on the price point. They're way behind on the price point anyway.
Yeah. And
now SpaceX is going to have a reusable rocket that's going to reduce it. Once they start getting good at these things, it's orders of magnitude reduction in cost.
Yeah. And ULA have had to back out of the defense, military satellites launches, which is like huge win for SpaceX.
Yeah.
Not that they even needed it because they probably would have won that anyway, the bidding.
Yeah.
So
it's looking a bit bleak.
It does look pretty bad. They're going to have to. You'll probably see them go through some like big reforms and shit and try to like piece it together and I don't know.
Yeah. I imagine they'll downsize or something or. I don't know, but it's not.
I mean, they're still a big company, still like a huge amount of launches in there.
Yeah, and huge amount of talent there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they're running out of launch. They've got like a fucking like queue of launches to do, like 10 miles long or something.
But I mean, that's gonna. SpaceX is just gonna get all the new buys.
You would assume so.
If they're gonna be, I mean, people are already queuing up to get on the next, the reuse of that.
They are,
rocket,
which is
booster.
sick. Although they're not gonna relaunch that one apparently.
Is that true?
Yeah. Elon said.
I didn't know that.
Elon said quite soon after the landing, actually, that they're going to keep this one on the ground.
Oh.
Because it's the first, and it's symbolic. They'll probably.
Oh, really? So it's like a trophy rocket.
Yeah. They're going to run through all the tech. They're going to check it all out. They're going to static fire it on the ground to prove that it would fly. So like basically, stick up to full thrust or whatever.
Yeah. It blows up.
Shit.
That
would be tragic. Can you imagine?
I'd be alright. I didn't know
and
that.
And they keep it on the ground, yeah. It's a bit disappointing, actually, but I mean, I can sort of whatever.
When's the next launch?
Like fucking next Sunday or something. No, not this. Yeah, so like Sunday the 17th, I think, is the next one. And they're going to try and... They're basically... So I've been doing a lot of reading about this because they fucking geek out hard over it. They basically, now with this new upgraded Falcon 9, the full thrust Falcon 9, whatever it's called.
Which, by the way, before you tell me, looked hench.
Yeah.
It was like... Because they were it was glowed like super bright and stuff, like way more. When it was landing, I couldn't see anything, and when it was taking off, I couldn't either. I thought it was going to blow up when it was going off.
Your face on that reaction video.
because there was so much like sublimation and so much fire. I guess that's from the fact that it's much colder.
Yeah.
And so there's way more steam and sublimation coming.
I guess so.
And the rocket flame is bigger because it's
higher
more powerful.
Thrust, yeah. I mean, might have been just because it was at night that it's brighter and you see more of the sublimation and shit. But I mean, it looked like it was when it was on the launch pad before launching. It was just so much like gas coming off of it, venting like.
Yeah, it was so cool.
Imagine climbing into that as an astronaut. Fucking hell.
It's scary. It'd be fine.
But
I'm sorry, you were saying.
So apparently with these full thrust ones, is that even on like the really high like geosynchronous transfer orbit things, they will be able to attempt landings. They'll actually be able to land. All of the Falcon 9 launches from now on are going to be able to have landing attempts. So they're just going to end up with like a massive pile of like boosters that they need to
just old boosters.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, I reckon we'll be seeing some reused launches maybe this year.
You'd think this year. So how much is it going to cost to get one of those like back up? Like how much are people going to pay?
Do you mean like the first, like sort of like the first time they reuse it or something, or like?
Yeah, the first time. Is there any monies on that?
I don't think anyone really knows. No. I mean, SpaceX themselves probably don't even know until they've like presumably checked out exactly what's happened to the booster and like all that shit. They don't know like how much work they're gonna have to do and to refurbish it and stuff. So
yeah, you presume they're going to give someone a knockdown kind of fee.
Yeah.
Like the first time.
I think the is it CES or something? The company that they're going to be launching in like a couple of weeks' time.
CES.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Don't know what it's a satellite company. It's a satellite company. Yeah. They have already come out and said like, oh yeah, we'll take it. We'll take that hit and have the first refurbished Falcon 9 booster. So that would be cool. If you know, I mean, any reduction in price is going to be like a big deal.
Well, so it I mean, they'll cut that down. They did say, SpaceX said at one point that they thought it would get down to, once they've got these things like regularly going up and they know how much how to refurbish, it's going to be down to like 5 or 7 million per launch.
Fuck.
Which is, what's it now, like 60?
50 to 60, I think.
So that's an order of magnitude less.
That's crazy.
So but I mean, we talked about ULA, but obviously there's no one who can really compete with that price on the radar even.
I mean, certainly none of like the established like big name launch providers like Arianespace and who else, like Orbital ATK,
the Proton people,
ILS and I mean, they're all launching old rockets basically that are really like good and reliable and stuff, but just like they're just build a new one every time.
Exactly.
There's no reusability.
So presumably the next kind of competitors to SpaceX are going to be either, unless these companies can sort themselves out and quickly get up to speed with SpaceX. It might even be things like space planes. Like it might be decades away that someone's able to catch up to that level and have something, because it's taken. No, it won't be decades away. Well, it might be decades away because
for space planes and stuff, it may well.
It will be. I mean, just to catch up with SpaceX.
Yeah, I mean, SpaceX have done it fast, but they are quite remarkable in that sense.
That's what I mean, though. So who's going to catch them up in the next 10 years? Doesn't look like anyone.
10 years, yeah. I mean, possibly nobody.
And they're going to keep going as well.
Yeah, in 10 years' time. I mean, if Elon has his way, they'll be on the surface of Mars in 10 years.
Yeah.
We'll see about that. But
see about that, Elon.
I'm up for it. But you never know. So. Yeah, I mean, certainly for the next few years, I can't see anyone catching them.
No,
they're just going to keep accelerating. You'd imagine.
So maybe it won't be until I'm not even sure the space planes will be cheaper necessarily. I mean, people have talked about the economics of these things, and some people saying that having air breathing stages doesn't help. It doesn't really reduce the cost if you can land the rockets.
That's what I think. That's what Elon says.
Yeah, or has said.
Yeah, maybe because he's not building space planes. I don't know.
That's true.
I don't know enough about the economics of these things at all to like be able to comment on it. And
I think not many people do know much about the economics of a space plane because there's not even one in existence. There's only a few plans from a few companies.
And the thing about these rockets is that they're much more flexible in terms of like how fast they can get, like where you can put payloads. Space planes are going to be. You're never going to be able to get a space plane to like fly to the moon or like
no.
or even
just low satellite delivery. Though.
Yeah.
Well,
so you're still going to need. So SpaceX, in that sense, they're not going to be competing with SpaceX for like putting payloads to like the L1 point or beyond, to the moon and Mars or whatever. Like, So, they seem to be head and shoulders at the moment. At least heading that way.
Yeah.
Mate, it's still early days, of course, but
yeah. So what's next for SpaceX then?
Well,
there are front runners at the moment.
This
They're
year,
going to sort out that. Obviously, they're going to try and launch another booster, right? Presumably this year.
Like reuse one.
Sorry, reuse a booster.
Yeah, hopefully.
And then there's the Falcon Heavy, of course, is this year. So that's going to be awesome.
That's going to be wicked.
If they do you know if they're going to try and land that first time?
I don't know. I fucking hope so. Because if they do, that's three booster landings. One triple whammy.
Yeah.
Possibly one at sea.
Oh, man, that's going to be ridiculous.
So you're going to get 2 landing on land, like the ones we saw before, and then the middle one's going to be like moving too fast, so it'll end up landing on a barge in the sea. That's going to be wicked.
Which they still haven't done, actually. That's another thing they need to try and tick off the list, is manage to land something at sea.
I mean, we wouldn't get the same kind of coverage because you can't really put cameras right next to it and stuff, but it's going to be badass to watch.
Just quickly before we go off this topic, landing at sea, I did not understand at all how they flipped that thing back round and landed it back where it started out. That made no sense to me whatsoever.
It's
until I sort of like watched some videos and tried to like understand it.
Yeah, I know. I spent ages.
I thought in my head I was like, what? So what do? They just like turn the rocket round. I thought they'd flip it round.
Yeah.
And then start burning the opposite direction.
Like literally, like have to basically
against
stop it
against the
in
trajectory
mid-air,
of the orbit,
and then
previous orbit.
Yeah.
And then just reverse and then just drop back down. But obviously that's not what they do.
No.
They just basically do like a sort of somersault almost.
Yeah, it's like almost like a loop-the-loop kind of thing. Like
so fucking cool.
I'd love to just watch that in its entirety. I don't know how you do that. Some kind of like high altitude plane, like filming it or something. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I think it'd be very hard to see.
Imagine watching it with the Falcon Heavy, with the 2 of them doing it, like flipping back the 2 side boosters, flipping back to launch base.
Yeah, that would be wicked.
Side.
When 3 of them land, that's gonna be hardcore.
Yeah.
So we'll no doubt do a reaction and talk about that a bit more.
Yeah. For sure.
And then there's the Mars transporter this year as well.
Well, the announcement of it is potentially going to be early this year, like
maybe soon. Which potentially will take huge advantage of these reusable rockets.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it a bit more in a second, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also the Crew Dragon, which is like the Dragon 2, like the updated new more badass version of the
one that can propulsively land.
Yeah.
Badass dragon.
So that's going to be doing demo flights this year, I think, and possibly even like an in-flight abort test.
Oh yeah.
That might be 2017. I can't remember.
It's definitely on the cards, that thing.
It's soon. It's coming. Well, they're going to be launching astronauts in 2017.
They've got to do it before that, so it probably is this year.
Man, the first astronauts that get on a Falcon 9 is going to be insane, isn't it?
Look, there's like photos and videos.
Yeah.
Ask me that in a second.
Okay.
I don't know what you're going to ask me. Of the inside of the Dragon capsule.
Yeah.
And it looks like cushy as shit. It's like loads of space. There's like this way the seats are racked up. They've got like amazing like touch screens in front of them. But presumably when that's full of cargo, it's going to be pretty crammed.
You'd assume so. You'd assume it would maybe not quite as crammed as the Soyuz, which is insane.
I don't think that's possible to be more crammed than that. Anyway, only way you can be more crammed than that is to be like a lead atom in a block of lead.
But yeah, you'd imagine that they'd pack it full of stuff because you're not going to waste a trip up to the ISS or whatever.
But when it's empty, it just looks like a lounge. It looks well cushy.
It's amazing. It kind of reminds me of Contact.
Oh yeah, the thing
in Contact that she goes in, because it's all like sort of a little bit futuristic. It looks basically exactly how you would want a spacecraft to look.
Yeah.
In the 21st century, like no more fucking about with like old school green paint. And,
the Russian green paint.
And like little switches and stuff. Like it's all glass controls and touch screens and
big windows.
Like floating seats that are like in the middle of an amazing spacious kind of it's wicked.
Yeah, the whole control panel thing compared to the Soyuz, which is like. They've got those stupid pointy, like wands, the dialing wands from The Simpsons sort of thing.
Because they're sort of like frogged into these little seats, like I can't really move.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah,
it's going to be much better. So what are you going to ask me?
I was going to ask you. I think I was going to ask you something like, how scary would you find it, or would you find it? Because we were talking about. We were talking about the other day or the other week, talking about how scary it would be to get in a Soyuz, despite its safety record. It just seems scary. Yeah. Like, would you trust the Falcon 9 more or less? Like, intuitively. I mean, obviously, if you look at the stats, the Falcon 9 has a worse record just because it's been around for less time. There's something about it which is so like shiny and modern.
That seems safer.
Yeah.
I would I trust? No, I wouldn't. I don't think. I think my brain would take over and say it would tell me it's not the safer one necessarily. I don't know enough about it. I think the Soyuz would feel safer in that sense, but it looks like a piece of shit. So maybe when you got there, you'd sort of regret your decision. You'd be like, hold on a minute, this looks like
I want to go in that thing.
Yeah, and you're in the middle of like the Kazakhstani kind of steppe, and it's kind of a bit like crappy and rusty, and it's like, can we just go back to Cape Canaveral? I want to bail on this whole thing. We'll get to a point though, obviously, where it's got to be safer in the long run. I mean, it's got for the crew to escape, it's got more options than the Soyuz. So in the long term, yes, would it feel safer? It probably would feel safer, but I don't think it logically is safer yet. I mean, I thought that the Falcon 9s were just all going to go up and it was going to be fine, and then one of them blew up, and I was like, maybe not. But they said they would have been able to escape that fine. Yeah. That's what SpaceX said. Yeah. Which
would be wicked. I mean, it'd be cool. You'd expect that like this abort thing would just like come off the end of the rocket if it starts blowing up, and then just like propulsively land, and then like the next day just get loaded onto another rocket and off it goes again. Yeah. Maybe not quite the next day.
Probably not. It's been ages trying to work out what went wrong. Yeah. It'd be grounded for years or a year.
Shit. Yeah.
So do you reckon the space race is more significant than the previous space race, the one in the 60s?
Significant. Like. Do you mean?
Do you think there's a bigger change occurring now, or will occur in the next, say, during this privatization of space? Do you think that's a more significant step than just simply getting into space?
I don't know. I think it probably will end up being like, in terms of like the amount of technology development that's going to happen between like the start of this commercial space race, and like. Not its end, but like where it's going to lead to.
Yes,
I think there's going to be a bigger like technological change than there was back in like the 50s, 60s.
Yeah,
but like comparing,
I feel
going
like
from like having never accessed space to like putting people on the moon.
Yeah,
is massive. Like that is hugely significant.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah.
It's just a shame that it all sort of stopped after that.
Yeah, I feel like the difference here is that it's sort of like when people first discovered America or something, like the difference between explorers and then creating, say, the US. Yeah, you know, the difference is we're not just commercializing space, we're essentially moving it into space. Yeah, and that's a more significant change than just pioneering it.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, that's a very good point.
But it's that doesn't take anything away from the pioneering years.
No, of course not. They were necessary. Like they are absolutely necessary. You have to go through that.
Thing, really.
Yeah, it is. But you have to go through that part to be able to get to this part.
But in the history of humanity, I think this change that's happening now is a more long term.
Yeah. Okay. I'll go with that.
And probably more important in terms of its longevity and its effect on the population. Most of the other space race that happened, it didn't really affect humanity in the same way that this will.
No,
essentially what I'm saying. It's just the
it was a cool thing that was
obvious.
happening, and people could look up and see it and be like, you know, wow, that's cool.
It's very inspiring.
Very good
for technology development and stuff.
Whereas this is actually going to be opening up space for like
potentially everyone.
Potentially everybody.
Yeah.
Certainly for commercial exploitation, the likes of which we can't even imagine at this point. Yeah. And even, you know, colonizing Mars moving forward into the future, like making the human species like multi-planetary, that kind of thing. Like, yeah. So in that respect, it is significant. And also this new like commercial space race. Suddenly, there's just no rules. You know, like companies that can just compete on like a totally free market. Like there's no government that's trying to like tie them down and cut funding and all that kind of stuff. Like if they can make money, they can make money, and like that's it. Like that's the only sort of rule, is that they just need to keep making money. So that's really exciting about it.
Yeah, and that competition between the companies as well.
Yeah,
the fact that they have to be cheaper and better than their competitors.
Yeah. Whereas
that didn't really have to happen in the early days, because it was simply reaching a specific goal, however much it cost.
Yeah. So do you think that this event, this SpaceX like landing, so the fact that we now know that reusable rockets, or at least landing a rocket, is a thing that can be done.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a more significant event than landing on the moon? It's kind of a similar question to what we had before, but it was talking about.
But this is about a specific event, isn't it? No, I don't think it can be classed as that. Like, people are going to remember. This is like, it's history that's been made.
Yeah.
But are people really going to remember it in the same way that they remember, the Neil Armstrong setting his foot down on the?
Yeah.
Maybe that's they're not going to remember it, but maybe that's not.
Maybe that's not what significant
anyway.
means. I mean, there's different sort of definitions. There's significant to like the kind of collective human sort of consciousness or collective memory or whatever. So in that respect, it's absolutely not going to be like as culturally impactful. No. But
it changes. Yeah.
It might change things more. It might have more of a significant effect on like the future. I mean, as you were just saying, in terms of like opening up space, making it sort of a place, accessible.
Yeah, you could argue that if this is the landmark moment of this particular,
if it is,
space race essentially.
I
don't know, but there's going to be other big
there will be.
If there's a colony set on Mars, the first people getting there. I mean, surely that's the bigger step.
Yeah.
But because it necessitated many other steps before it, including vertically landing a rocket.
Yeah.
But I wonder it's a longer, more gradational thing than like that flag planting kind of event that the moon landings were.
Sure. But I wonder if we will look back in decades or even centuries. Well, maybe centuries is a bit of a stretch, but certainly like several decades, 100 years from now maybe, and look back at like there was like a pivotal moment at the point where we started landing rockets. I'm not saying there will be in particular. I'm sort of just wondering out loud, like if that's actually.
Obviously, time will tell, but
because it is a bit of a. It does seem like I'm not saying that suddenly, like from now on, all rockets are reusable, everything, whatever. But there is sort of a step change in
technology.
Well, in cost and technology, like enabled by this.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yes, I think it will be definitely remembered as a big change in this particular race. It's just that there will be other big changes, that may seem bigger to the collective to the cultural zeitgeist, if you like.
Yeah,
but there's no way this is going to get swept under the rug. I mean, this is a big deal,
and people know it as well. Like chatting to people who aren't really aren't tend to be that day-to-day interested in stuff like space or science and stuff, and everyone knows about it. Everyone knows that it's a big deal, which is really cool.
Yeah,
it was on the front page of the BBC website for the whole day at least.
Yes, yeah.
Which is wicked.
But it will be bigger. Obviously, it will be bigger when people first land on Mars for
obvious
of course. Reasons.
Oh yeah. It's gonna be awesome.
It's gonna be badass.
So looking sort of further into the future, like beyond sort of like the next few decades or whatever. So what does this kind of like mean for the future of humanity? So obviously, like Elon's big dream is to, and it's the whole reason for SpaceX to exist, and is to enable people to colonize Mars, basically. So to get people on Mars by like the hundreds or thousands.
Yeah.
Not just one or two people to explore, but like a city load of people.
Yeah, like he says he wants to live on Earth, be born on Earth, and die on Mars.
Yeah.
He says that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, which it definitely would.
That's cool, definitely cool.
As long as you die from old age, not from like some horrendous like accident.
He said not. I think he said something like not, at least not at the point of impact.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like
or
radiation
from like explosive
sickness.
Decompression or something like that.
Yeah, something horrific.
In like a nice sort of like domed garden in like a crater on Mars, like sort of bouncing through the reduced gravity, and I don't know, playing with your Mars dogs, and I don't fuck know.
As you do in old age on Earth.
Yeah.
But with like a spacesuit on.
Yeah.
Will it be what does this mean to the future? So obviously this is like hugely important for the Mars colonial transporter.
Yeah, I mean it's crucial to it. Yeah.
The whole thing getting back and forward to Mars.
Yeah.
Is predicated on the fact that you can basically have rockets coming up and down at Earth and Mars that don't cost much. Basically, you just refuel them. They're constantly going up and down. And then in orbit, you have your colonial transporter that just orbits Earth and Mars.
Yeah.
And presumably is refurbished somehow.
Presumably. I mean, nobody really knows what this the architecture is going to be for getting people back and forth from Mars in SpaceX's kind of design.
Well, yeah. I mean,
it might be that it's a beast like spacecraft that gets launched from Earth and lands on Mars. It might not be like a shuttle thing that's
Oh
constantly
yeah, that was their original.
flipping
There
back
was
and
some.
forth. I mean, most people like space agencies like NASA and stuff talk about like having a sort of like a mobile ISS type thing that's
Yes.
like traveling back and forth.
Yeah.
But SpaceX haven't let anyone know what their plans are, so it's all speculation.
Right.
And like people, like, there's all this stuff about them building like a fucking massive rocket, which I think is actually referred as the big fucking rocket or the BFR.
It was called the Falcon X originally, wasn't it?
Yeah, or that rings a bell. Yeah, I think so. Falcon
The
X.
Raptor,
Falcon X
they got
Heavy.
the Raptor engines,
Yeah,
which are these big like methane.
yeah, that's it.
Cooking
Yeah,
engines.
and there's going to be a shitload of them on this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's going to be
absolutely massive.
Absolute monster.
Yeah. So
So that suggests that they are going to be launching a giant spacecraft rather than like building something in orbit and having it like.
Well, so the other thing then, if you think about the Colonial Transporter, is that of course they're going to, if you did have Falcon 9's type rockets,
Yeah.
that meet this sort of ISS type thing that floats from between Mars and Earth, you're going to have Falcon 9's on Mars.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe
Get refurbished, etc., etc.
Yeah. So maybe what's going to happen is that you have like this.
You can't have that at the start. You've got to build something that can deliver stuff to start with.
Yes, but what if you don't have this like ISS type thing ferrying people back and forth, and what you actually have is just like a giant like spacecraft
Yeah.
on the front of a huge rocket. The spacecraft, the rocket launches the thing, separates, the giant first stage comes back, lands on Earth. The other like part of the spacecraft goes to Mars, propulsively lands on Mars.
Yeah.
And then eventually like takes off again, refuels itself somehow using stuff that's there.
Yeah.
Takes off again and flies back to Earth, propulsively lands on Earth. So there's no like ferry thing going back and forth.
So just the whole thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just trying to imagine like Elon sort of thinks outside, SpaceX sort of think outside the box in these ways, don't they? And they seem to make suggestions like, why don't we just fucking land the whole rocket propulsively? And everyone's like, what? That's mental. Use parachutes. And now they've done it and like it's cheaper
sure.
and better.
But I don't know. I don't know, because it's like you never have single stage to orbit rockets. They don't seem to scale that way, do they?
Sure, that's very true. Maybe on Mars it's different.
Well, you've got less gravity
Lower
to escape
gravity,
and less atmosphere to get through.
That is a very good point, though.
But having said that, that doesn't still mean that
Maybe
you can
you
have
have
like a giant booster that gets
on Mars as well.
No, you don't need that. So you have a like a 3-stack rocket or whatever.
Yeah.
No, a 2-stack rocket. So it go up. The main stage will drop off once it's got to a certain speed in Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah.
Gets out of Earth's atmosphere into orbit, sends its way onto Mars, and one of the stages falls off at that point, lands back on Earth. The second stage takes it to Mars. It lands propulsively on Mars, refuels, and then it doesn't have to. It can do a single stage to orbit back to Earth on Mars because there's less gravity and less atmosphere. If you see what I mean. So you only need that like one giant rocket part to escape the Earth's atmosphere and Earth's gravity. On Mars, it's easier, so you don't have to have that. It's easier to do a single stage to orbit.
Possibly.
I'm talking shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's possibly true. I don't know enough about like the mechanics of it.
No idea.
I mean, you could probably work it out relatively simply.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But whatever happens, reusability is going to be a huge part.
Absolutely,
of
yeah.
making
on both, possibly on both ends, or definitely on both ends.
Definitely on both ends.
Yeah, definitely.
To make it affordable, and they're planning to make it. What was the cost? Like 200 grand was
500,000.
500,000 per person.
That's his goal.
Which
to Mars.
Which is nuts, and that's at the start. They were saying.
Yeah.
So to do that, obviously, you have to have a huge component of reusability. You can't be rebuilding stuff. You just refuel. And eventually, the idea is obviously to get it much cheaper than that.
Yeah. How much did the Curiosity rover cost? 2 billion.
2 billion, yeah.
2 billion. So you could take 4 people for that cost, and all the life support you'd need for them.
That was 2 billion.
2 billion. Jesus Christ. Okay, that's
nowhere near
blown
that.
my mind.
Yeah. It's absolutely insane.
That is insane. Yeah.
But we'll get more about this.
You could take thousands of people for the cost of the Curiosity rover. Like thousands.
Yeah.
5, 4. What am I on about? Jesus Christ.
But I mean, if that happens, if it's that, I mean, that's just insane.
Yeah, it's just insane. But it's his goal. It's what he wants to do. But anyway, we're going to be this year, possibly soon in this year, early part of this year, I think, will be. Yeah. They'll be delivering this what they call the architecture, the Mars Colonial Transporter, which is like what we've just been speculating about. So the design of this thing, and we'll be doing a video about it.
Hell yeah, we will.
So all of these questions we just had will be answered, at least
some of them anyway.
Yeah, in theory.
So there's obviously other things it's going to have effects on, right? So not just getting to Mars. These reusable rockets. Obviously, like things like mining, space tourism, like anything where the not just getting satellites in there, but if you think, for example, mining in space, which always seems like kind of a far-flung idea, if you can get a rocket up for a few million or whatever it costs, 5 million, and get back down a load of like I don't know, more than get back like 50 million's worth of platinum or something, then that suddenly is a potentially real thing.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
How much?
Actually, I mean, you can see like a whole new generation of industry just sort of springing up. Once obviously there's different like other levels to it. Like how do you like get like asteroids and like mine them and stuff, or like get to like raw materials in space, like capture an asteroid or whatever, get it somewhere that's easy to get to. But that's stuff that we'll figure out like as access to space is so much cheaper, like these things will get figured out, and there's suddenly going to be like a massive commercial benefit to doing it, and there's going to be another race probably of like essentially mining companies. That's crazy.
We're going to build like
the future. It's crazy.
They're going to build kind of, autonomous vehicles that are going to go out and do these sorts of things. You can have like an entire mining chain autonomously mining an asteroid.
Yeah. Or multiple asteroids.
And also, you would have people who go, like people go and live on oil rigs.
Yeah.
You can't live on an asteroid. Live off world.
Live off world.
The off-worlders.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's nuts.
Yeah.
And all because of reusability. That's possible.
Yeah, because you'd be constantly ferrying back, like, you'd be ferrying equipment up and people up possibly, and bringing back all the raw materials and all for processing on Earth.
I mean, people spend, more than millions on setting up mines now, and oil and things like that.
Yeah. It's potentially, like, unbelievably lucrative thing to do. So... Yeah, again,
it seems I always thought that was kind of a thing that maybe it wouldn't happen.
It's the kind of thing that happens like it's just in like sci-fi novels.
Like, is it ever really going to be like economical? But that kind of price, maybe.
Especially if you're launching like massive, like rockets like the Falcon Heavy and stuff that's bigger than that, and you can take real heavy machinery and you can bring back lots of raw material at once.
Well, that's an interesting question. Is what they would have to design something to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere that could land propulsively with like a shit ton of very heavy metals.
Maybe something like the Mars Colonial Transporter will do that though, because that's
just a dual purpose thing.
Yeah, or something that's based on that kind of design, because that's meant to be landing 100 tons of payload on Mars.
Yeah,
which is on Mars, which is obviously different as we've just been talking. But
you might be able to apply the same technology. Maybe.
Yeah. Like, what's the hard part there? The hard part is slowing down from orbital velocity.
Yeah.
Like
with something that heavy and then landing. I mean,
landing it. I mean, presumably you just scale up the forces involved in landing the Falcon 9 first stage. Like you just have bigger engines.
If they scale logarithmic, if they scale just like linearly, then you'll be all right.
Yeah.
If there's horrible exponential increases in stress in certain areas or whatever, then it might be harder. Or heat.
I'm pretty sure they want to land like the bigger boosters, like even like the Falcon X and that kind of stuff, like the big fucking rocket.
I think the plan is to do that, and therefore they must have reason to believe that it's okay.
Yeah,
worked it all out, done the math.
Yeah. But yeah, certainly like a whole new industry that doesn't exist at the moment. Potentially, I mean, in our lifetimes we could be seeing this, Yeah,
and space tourism as well. I mean, we talked about mining, but like. Blue Origin have already kind of started to. That's primarily what that thing's objective is.
Yeah,
is to ferry people up to low Earth, not to low Earth orbit, just into space and back.
Yeah, which is.
But potentially you could have hotels that have people being ferried back and forward. I mean, that's you can see the economics of mining, because there's a huge amount of money you can make back potentially from mining very valuable metals and things from asteroids.
Yeah.
But in terms of space tourism, that's very expensive.
Yeah.
But we're thinking Falcon 9 that you wouldn't need a Falcon 9 necessarily, would you? You use it to bring people to the ISS, so you would probably.
If you have like a platform in orbit that's like a hotel, like a hotel, or some kind of like tourism thing that people can go and stay on for a few days.
Yeah.
I mean, the hotel sounds weird, but you know what I mean, like
Yeah,
sort of like the ISS, but like
Space Tail.
a bit nicer.
Yeah. Yeah.
For tourists.
Yeah, a luxury ISS.
With these big windows.
Yeah.
Big fuck off windows.
Yeah. And a shower.
Yeah. And like maybe you could do spacewalks and stuff.
Oh.
Jesus.
Yeah. But yeah, so people would obviously
you do like a scuba license. You get like a paddy or whatever. Like
your open space badge.
Open space badge.
And your advanced open space badge.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
People would obviously pay a lot of money and have done to go into space.
Yeah.
The ISS. Hold on a minute. The guy who went to the ISS the first guy paid about 20 million, and the most recent one I think paid about 40 or 35 or something like that. That's.
I thought. Okay. But I thought a seat on the Soyuz cost like 60 or something.
I think that's how much the tourists paid. The last one was in like 2009 or something, so it may have gone up again. But obviously you're splitting that cost. So the Falcon 9, say it costs 5 million. You're splitting that cost potentially between like 6 people, depending on how many people can go in it.
Yeah.
So maybe it's going to be like under $1 million to go and live in space for 30 days.
Yeah.
Which is obviously like way more affordable. But it's not. That's not a mainstream thing.
No,
people aren't just going to be paying that.
And I don't think SpaceX will be doing it really.
You don't think they'll ever bother with that?
They might.
The colonial transporter is tourism, essentially.
Kind of.
And it is and it isn't. I mean, it is.
It serves
it's
a
much more
purpose.
Pioneering than that. But,
yeah.
But it's not dissimilar in principle.
I guess if they have like
Wait, they're charging $500,000 for a trip to Mars.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, they're not going to be charging more than that just to go to Earth orbit.
Yeah. But maybe that's more in the near term than the long term, though. But cost aside, I mean, if we get to the point where SpaceX are taking people like by the 100 at a time to Mars, then like there's going to be people in orbit all the time, like fucking I don't know, flying about. There's going to be all kinds of stuff like that happening.
Just flying about.
So if we're bringing it back a little bit, like probably sooner in time, I can't. Space tourism, I think, is going to be really big and a really cool way for like people in the next sort of couple of decades or whatever to start accessing space that never could before.
Yeah,
Hopefully
I definitely hope in my lifetime I'm going to be able to do that.
I hope we can record a episode from space.
Oh my God.
That's going to happen.
That's just so cool.
Even if it's like a 4-minute episode on a Blue Origin rocket
that we've basically broken our banks for.
Yeah,
worth it.
Oh, absolutely.
# worth it.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think.
Oh my God! Imagine that.
Yeah.
Recording it. Oh, that's so cool.
Just like a reaction vid, like floating around like maniacs.
No, I better start eating more healthy and stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I just need to start saving some money.
Yeah.
Some cash money.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I can see companies like Blue Origin and stuff they being the ones that sort of pioneer the tourism more, and like SpaceX maybe sticking to the commercial stuff and it's like vision. That being said, if there's a fleet of like reusable Falcon 9s like flying all over the place all the time, then probably you will end up having people hitch rides on them to get to little space platforms to have fun for a week or whatever. I don't know.
I mean, maybe you could have trips that go up for mining that are essentially empty.
Yeah.
No, that's bollocks. You
Why would they be empty? Oh, to take up some container to bring back stuff.
Yeah, you might not need so much kind of space going up as you need coming down.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
potentially. You'd think they obviously bring up a lot of machinery and things and trying to make that as efficient as possible, personnel changes, these types of things. But maybe there's some sort of symbiotic relationship that could happen there. I don't know. But it's definitely a very highly exciting future.
Yes.
Highly
and
exciting.
3 weeks ago, like it just seemed like a dream, and now that we have that landing, it's definitely possible to put something in orbit and
we've
land
had 2 this year.
Stage.
One obviously, slightly different, but 2.
Two. They're going to come in quick succession now.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
So it's all pretty fucking exciting.
Welcome to the future.
Yeah. Right. Well, that sort of wraps up
that's our main topic.
Little topic. So just to round off, I'm gonna bring you a fine.
Oh yeah, it's nuts of the week.
Piece of wisdom. Nuts of the week.
We need a jingle.
We do need a jingle.
We should
like
pre-record one.
Yeah, some background like on a music, like I don't know, some happy little ditty.
Nuts of the week.
Okay,
yeah. We'll take that as a soundbite.
So this is quite short. The article itself was short, like real short. but it's just beautiful what's behind it. So this is some people who reckon they found some like have dug some old pictures out from, I can't remember, one of them's from like let's have a look at it. One of them's from 1920 and one's from 1941.
Okay.
Right, and these are taken as proof, right, that Vladimir Putin
I love it.
is an immortal being.
What?
That is alive for thousands of years. It's like a thing that resides on our planet for thousands of years.
So many elements I'm enjoying.
So
Vladimir Putin,
yeah,
immortal,
yeah,
and it's got like some sort of conspiracy connection government thing I'm imagining as well.
Yeah, exactly. So these are the pictures. I mean, we'll put a link. I'll definitely put a link to this. So these are the pictures of 3 people. Oh, the third one is actually Putin. And that this is taken as proof that he was alive back then.
I need to look closer.
In 1914 or whatever it was.
Let me have a look.
The first World War, I guess.
Oh yeah, well they do kind of look like him.
I mean, they do look a lot like him, especially the middle one. Like the guy from 1921 basically just looks like Putin in costume. So that is a bit strange.
Are they right?
Maybe they're right. I mean, there is something weird about the guy, isn't there?
There's
something hilarious and weird about him.
Yes. Yeah, those pictures he does look a bit like him.
It's a bit odd. I mean, maybe it's just a really common like face in Russia.
Oh God.
I don't know. Maybe it is like that kind of like the kind of facial like
the
layout.
Putin face.
The Putin face. I mean, there's a shitload of dogs that look like Putin. Have you seen that?
No.
There's like a whole website dedicated to dogs that look like Putin.
That's amazing.
I know.
So is that their only evidence? Just some photos?
That is their only evidence. But apparently it's like a theory that's been kicking around for a while.
Oh really?
And I think it's people in Russia who love him and revere him as a bit of like a...
Oh, that he's like some sort of ancient like deity.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, that is
so now,
awesome.
so that's existed for a little while. That like, but now these pictures have emerged and they're using that as like to say like, look, we're right. Like, this is.
Oh, that's even better than
sort
of nut, like sort of conspiracy nuts. That's like
it's people.
That's like
it's like a cult personality. It's like people like crazy nutters in Russia that have taken their like love of their leader to like a whole other level.
Yeah. You got to feel a bit sorry for them a little bit in that sense that maybe it's forgivable, maybe it's not, but in the sense that they've got to a point where that cult personality has started to take over what their kind of view of reality.
Yeah.
Like in North Korea, where they think a new star in the sky when Kim Jong Il died or whatever like that. It's kind of that type of regime.
Yeah, which is I mean, it does look in a way like it's going to go that way.
I hope not.
I mean, I wonder how long he's going to be in power. Presumably the rest of his life.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not quite sure how that whole thing's going to work out. It's an interesting situation, and that's I think that's quite an interesting like piece of sort of sociology. Like the people are starting to believe that.
Yeah, for sure. Kind of emerging out. I wonder if that's like a group of people that's growing or not. I don't know enough about it.
No.
Yeah.
I do want to know more about that. I might read some more about that.
Yeah,
later.
it's good.
Very interesting. It's good. The picture. Do you have to say though? The pictures are.
They do look a lot like him.
He does look like him.
Yeah.
They could just be like grained out, photoshopped, kind of. You never know.
They could literally just be his face, like photoshopped onto old pictures.
Yeah,
because it looks enough like him.
I need to take a closer look, but from the first glance, they didn't look like that.
No, I think they are actually old pictures, especially the 1914 one. I think is actually like an actual guy,
legit,
who obviously isn't Putin, but maybe it is.
It's a Putin lookalike.
Maybe it's just Putin's dad and Putin's granddad. They just all look the same. It's just been
that's probably the most logical explanation.
Just like the family
they
face.
Just look very similar.
Just the Putin face.
Because you do see old pictures of like I've seen old pictures of like great grandparents or whatever that look like say my cousin or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. I reckon we should get a Putin poster to go behind our backdrop. No, maybe one of the ones where he's like, I don't know, like cuddling a kitten or something, or like playing with some geese or something.
I mean, they are funny.
They're amazing.
I know they are good.
Like he's always got the same exact like expression on his face, but like when he like does stuff where he like cuddles tigers and like didn't he do a thing where he led a bunch of geese home or something like that? I think he's like flew in a Google it.
Oh man,
he flew in like a microlight to like lead a bunch of geese back to their like fucking I don't know wherever they live, lake somewhere. He's an absolute beast. Just sorting those geese out.
I don't think we can have a poster. I think that's too far. I think people might turn onto it and be like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah. We're not actually like Putin supporters or anything like that.
I think that's
just
obvious.
To make that clear.
Right.
Anyway, That's
a good way to
it.
end the show.
Indeed.
Very good way to end the show. Thank you very much for listening, everyone.
Sure. So next week we're going to be bringing you some stuff from CES.
Yeah.
As we mentioned earlier, just some like tasty morsels that we've sort of come across that we think are cool and might mean some stuff for the future.
Yeah. Stuff that we kind of want to discuss more at length, not just like a new iPhone or something like that.
Yeah. No, like shit that we think is going to be like impacting the future in a cool way.
Yeah. There may be nothing.
Yeah. In which case we'll just do a video where we just talk about fucking bollocks, I guess.
Well, we do that anyway. Yeah. But like, maybe we'll just do a different topic. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
It sounds
no
like
promises.
I think there's already a few things though.
Yeah, I reckon we can probably fill like a whole show with just like one of those things. So it doesn't, we'll be fine. We'll be fine.
There's going to be plenty of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, keep listening, and we very much appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, and if you want to get in contact with us, of course, just like hit us up in the comments or drop us an email, offworldempire@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you. Cheers for listening, and
it's been our pleasure.
Yeah, subscribe.
See you later.
Cheers.